parents? Were they around when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional household. We lived in a very small apartment. We lived in like a 600 square foot 1-bedroom. My sister and I shared a bedroom until I moved out at 15. My father was a very abusive, very sick person, physically and emotionally. He was probably, although he refused to go to any sort of psychologist or psychiatrist, but he was probably bipolar, paranoid, schizophrenic. Unfortunately, my amazing aunt, his sister, who was like the best aunt on the planet, had a mental breakdown later on in life, and you know, she's been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. So I'm sure that my father was mentally ill. Yeah, mental illness for sure. And he just, you know, and obviously, you know, like when you go through the world of recovery, and especially specifically in the 12 steps, you do a lot of work on yourself, and it gives you the freedom to be able to come to terms with your past and forgive and make amends. And because of that work, I have completely relinquished like all. Well, I no longer harbor resentment for my father. Do I wish that I had a relationship with him? Do I wish that he would have spent any time with me? Do I wish that he didn't kick my ass and call me the names he did? Absolutely. Do I harp on it? Fuck no. I don't allow my past to predict my current or my future. I just don't anymore. And I think a lot of people that struggle with trauma tend to fall victim of this. My past is who I am, and I just don't subscribe to that. I know that shit is hard for a lot of people. I'm not taking anything away from trauma at all, but I will say that I don't believe it's necessary to allow your past to predict your decision-making process today.
I respect that, and I agree with you. And, you know, first off, I'm so jacked that you're on my show. Your content, what you do, your podcast, and the reason you're over 20 years sober today is because you stay in the solution. And a lot of your content is also like, all right, let's improve. How can we improve with this? What's better ourselves with this, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, whatever it is. That is a solution-based thought. That is a solution-based way to go about things. And in recovery, I've learned, I tried recovery many times and had many relapses because I was sitting there playing victim, like, ooh, me, like, poor me, I had this happen to me. It's so unfortunate. And it would just cripple me from making any forward progress. But then once I started to make forward progress and started to, you know, do the less of, ooh, me, but yeah, listen, people have trauma. Absolutely. And it is very important that you talk about it. But being solution oriented and living in the solution, that will help you change as a person. I back
100%.
that exactly what you said, and I agree with you.
And by the way, I will make a note that I've taken a lot of shit and heat for saying that, you know, your trauma doesn't have to determine your current state or the future of your life. I've gotten people, you know, and I share from my heart, right? Like specifically on social media, it has been a platform for me to build community around this idea that anybody can change at any time. You never know what the catalyst could be. So my mission is to just share my story and my experiences, because maybe something I say or do could be someone else's catalyst, right? And so I share my experiences, my opinions, not what I think other people want to hear. And so trauma is real in my life. I have experienced sexual abuse. I have experienced physical abuse, emotional abuse. But by far and away, the worst abuse has been self-inflicted through drugs and alcohol. For years, I literally self-inflicted pain on my life through my commitment and loyalty to the drugs and the alcohol. And so there's a lot of trauma in my story. However, I am a fucking happy guy 90% of the time. Well, maybe 85% of the time. And I owe that to my unwavering commitment to waking up every single day with a mission to be just a little bit better, and we got a choice there. You know what I mean? Like we got a choice. Like we got a choice whether we roll over and hit the snooze button. We got a choice whether we make our bed, we don't make our bed. We got a choice on whether or not we want to talk to God. We got a choice on whether or not we want our first meal of the day to be some garbage or something healthy. We got a choice on whether or not we want to go actually work out or not. We've got a choice on whether we want to tell people we love them or not. Like we have these choices. Life, from my sort of point of view, is literally a series of decisions that we get to make because we're fucking alive. It's a series of decisions that we get to make, and we can practice discipline all fucking day long or not. At the end of the day, discipline has been the key to my happiness and success. Everybody has the ability to right size and turn the fucking ship if they want to. And commitment is the key, AKA discipline. Commitment is the key in a positive way. With enough commitment, and you know this in sobriety, right? Like no one is going to hold a gun to your head and tell you can't drink or use drugs. Like it is your job and the relationship you have with God, if that's something real in your life, to commit to abstaining from alcohol and drugs. I know that it's possible. You know that it's possible. No one is going to hold you to the fire to do it. You have to do it, right? There's no pill you can take. There's no switch you can flip. You've got to fucking do it. So committing is the hardest part of life. It just is. It's the hardest part when you're trying to do great things. And so with enough commitment over and over and over again on a daily basis, you just commit, you just develop confidence. Confidence is like, commitment is the pathway to confidence. Commitment is the confidence highway. Like there's no, it just is. And when we're using drugs, the last thing we have is self-confidence because we are hiding. And you can't have self-confidence under a blanket. It just doesn't work, right? Like if you're constantly running, you're constantly hiding from what life has to offer you. That self-confidence piece doesn't exist. So it's commitment, confidence, and then with enough confidence, courage is the byproduct. And courage is what people write fucking books about. You know what I mean?
When was the first time you actually made, let's say, a healthy commitment, right? Because a commitment to drugs, commitment to alcohol. No, but you made a healthy commitment and then you started to see right down the road the confidence and, et cetera.
I got very lucky. I got very lucky. When I was ready to get sober, I called a friend who was kind of like an older sister to me. She was the only person that I wasn't 100% she was sober, but I thought that she was sober. And she used to like take me in when I was a teenager, down and out, strung out. She would just like allow me to crash at her house. And I called her up and I was like, hey, I think it's time. Like, I need help. I think for the first time, really, I said that. And she was like, don't move. I'm sending my boyfriend. And her boyfriend was this guy who's now come to be one of my greatest mentors, one of my greatest friends, and kind of like the guy who came and saved my life. But he showed up and he, tough dude, covered in tattoos, just like like when he showed up, I was like, wait a second, like that's what sobriety could be? Like I immediately gravitated towards this guy. Like I immediately wanted to impress him. I immediately wanted him to like me. And I really do think the stars aligned for me in that way, that the first dude I met before I walked into a 12-step meeting was this guy. And he sat and listened to me for 4 hours. He asked me to tell him my story. No one had asked me to tell them my story outside of a therapist, which I knew was bullshit, right? They're just getting paid. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really care about my story. Not saying there's anything wrong with therapy. I'm a huge advocate for it if it's, with the right person. But this guy had no skin in the game. He was just there and volunteering his time on a whatever it was Tuesday night to like sit with me and hear me spew my guts on my life. And so he sat there, barely said shit for 4 hours, listened to me tell him my story, and I'm sure I lied my ass off, trying to sound tougher and trying to sound like it was worse than it was. And but he listened to me, and he wrote me a plan that night. And that plan was very simple for the most part. It's the plan that I kind of still live by today. But he basically said to me, look, dude, I'm going to tell you what I think you should do from the minute you open your eyes to the minute you close your eyes at night. It's structured. It's a system. And if you stick to it, the chances of you living a life way better than the life you're living currently are far greater, right? If you stick to it. So basically he said, I want you to wake up as early as you can in the morning. I don't know what time that is for you, but like as early as you can. The second you get up, spring out of bed. Don't roll around. Don't hit snooze. Don't do any of that shit. You stand up and you get out of bed. You turn around and you make your bed immediately. You walk into the bathroom. You brush your teeth. You wash your face. You put on your contact lenses. You take a piss, and then you drop down on your knees and ask God for help. And he said, that might sound weird to you. I don't give a shit if that sounds weird to you. I don't care if you believe in God or you don't believe in God. I don't care if you think that there's something out there or not. I don't care if you've had a bad experience with God or you've never experienced God in your life. I'm just asking you to get on your knees and pray for help to keep you sober for the day. And then as soon as you're done with that, I want you to do as many push-ups as you can. When you're done with your push-ups, I want you to go back into your room, put on a pair of sneakers, and get out of the house immediately. Go for a walk, go for a run, go for a jog. It could be 5 blocks, it could be 5 miles, but I want you to move your body immediately so you get that physical win every single morning, first thing. So you're out, you're getting that physical win, the win that you can create. And then as soon as you get back home from that run or walk or whatever it is, I want you to make a big bowl of oatmeal, because you probably have not put anything healthy or positive into your body in the last 10, 11 years. And I want you to start your day with a physical and a nutritional win. Those are 2 wins that you can completely control. You don't need anybody else to help you do those things. You can control those wins, and I want you to start with those things right away. Right when you're done with that bowl of oatmeal, I want you to get to this 12-step meeting. Get in there, sit in the front row, tell them who you are and why you're there. Listen and don't talk. And when you're done with that meeting, I want you to come down to this Muay Thai gym, and I'm going to teach you how to be a man. And we're going to train for 2 hours. And when we're done with that, you're going to have chicken and broccoli for lunch. You're going to take a nap. You're going to go to work. You're going to have chicken and broccoli again for dinner. And then when you're done with work, go right home, drop down on your knee right before you get into bed, say thank you, get into bed, close your eyes, and go to sleep. And that's your life. And I was like, fuck, I haven't exercised in a decade. And he was like, don't worry about it. We're gonna work on it together. And that was the beginning, dude. That was literally day one of sobriety for me, that I had this guy. And so he told me exactly where to go, and I just started to follow his plan. And I'm here to say that, like, it wasn't perfect. I don't remember it exactly how I was, like, walking through each day and each step. But I am here to tell you that structure, that commitment to wellness now is known as wellness, right? Like physical exertion, eating healthy, spirituality. That exposure to that from day one is what set me on my path of success, 100%. And so it started right away.
So as you're laying that plan out to me, it's very daunting. What was it? That's a huge commitment to make, especially, coming off of drinking. I don't know if you were doing drugs, but potentially, like, you're changing your life overnight. It's a huge commitment, and it's overwhelming just hearing it. What motivated you to do that and stick with it?
I had overdosed on heroin 2 weeks before. I wanted to kill myself the night before. I came so close to jumping out my 6-story window. And this guy had something I wanted. I wanted him. I wanted to impress him. He gave me a plan. See, I think something that I've said before on podcasts, but I think something that people need to hear, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this podcast are in recovery or on the verge of wanting to get sober, right? People chalk alcoholics and drug addicts up as these sort of like useless wastes of flesh, dirty, criminal, just terrible people. What they don't realize is that alcoholics and addicts happen to be really, really, really loyal. Very, very, very committal. And before they get sober, it's loyal to the wrong thing. And it's a commitment to the wrong thing. However, you strip away that wrong thing, also, i.e. drugs and alcohol, that human being knows what it means to be able to commit to something. Like, knows that they just spent the last X many years willing to do anything to get what they want. And that is typically to get drunk or high. So you strip that away, that person still has that drive, right? The shit that I would do to get high, the amount of days I would stay up to feel it just one more time, that's not normal. It's just not normal. Nobody in their right mind that's not an alcoholic or a drug addict would want to stay up for 3 days straight just to get a little bit more high. So you strip away that thing, that person still has that ambition, that drive to get what they want. And channeled in the right way, you make fucking savage human beings, And I'm one of them. You're one of them. You take away the drugs and the alcohol. If somebody took a picture of me on August 1st, 2004, and sat them next to me now and said, this person is going to be this person, and then laid out my credentials next to me, no betting man, no one would put money on that. No one. Impossible. Not a chance. No way. This dude, not a pot to piss in, fucking bloated, disgusting. The credentials next to him is crime, drugs, hadn't taken a solid shit in 4 years, all of it,
You were an opiate guy.
I ended up being an opiate guy. I was a cocaine, crack, and alcohol guy for a long time, for many years before the opiates really became a thing. But I just got sick and tired of staying up for 3 days straight, and I needed to find a way to come down. And heroin was introduced to me,
Can you walk us through roughly just like an overview of your last year of using and like where it really brought you, that desperate, staying up 3 days, that essentially motivated you to follow that plan your first year of sobriety?
Yeah, that last year, it got very dark, very violent. I rolled with a crew of guys that were very much like me. We all partied really hard. I got into an enormous amount of fights. I'm not a fighter. I'm just not. Like, I have not been in a physical altercation since I got sober. The year before I got sober, I was in a fist fight 2 to 3 times a week. I got 86 from every single bar in that last year. South of Houston, north of Canal, east of Allen and west of Essex. I could not be in that area because every single bar that I went into, I got into a fight in, and multiple times. I would be your best friend 1 minute and you said something that I didn't like. I'd punch you right in the mouth the next minute. And there was no controlling. I was a loose cannon. I was so angry. I lived in an apartment that I had 2 roommates, and we had this little upstairs kind of like, the landlord had turned the bulkhead of the building into like an additional bedroom, and it became my crack den. And my 2 roommates dealt with me, but I had fucking crazy people coming in and out of that house all the time. And we'd smoke crack up there. We'd drink around the clock. I still had a job in a restaurant. I was able to like somehow get away with this, you know, and working in the nightlife in New York, it's like, there's a lot of addiction. It's riddled with addiction. It just is. And that's why you see a lot of sober hospitality people, because it's just riddled. So it was, I would work on a Friday night. I also, disclaimer, I was a drug dealer. I sold a lot of drugs. And so I would work on a Friday night. I'd get out of work at 2:00 in the morning. I'd get on the phone with JetBlue. I'd book a flight out of JFK at 5 a.m. down to Miami. I'd, take a cab to the airport with no bags, just literally out of work, just like get in a cab, go to the airport. I'd go down to Miami. I'd get a hotel room, party, buy clothes the next day, like high as a kite, like shopping, like buying shit. Come to 2 days later on the floor of a hotel room with like a condom halfway on my dick, not knowing what happened, on like the floor of a shower, In the apartment, I was so paranoid. I used to tiptoe around the apartment when nobody was home, looking through the peephole, looking under the door. I don't even remember eating. I don't know what I used to eat, but I hated myself with a passion. I would, it was very, very dark, and it involved around the clock drinking, around the clock stimulant use through cocaine, crack, and a lot of fighting, and committing crimes, selling drugs, trying to scam wherever I could, trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, any opportunity I had. I was a guy that would they say it a lot in the rooms, right? Like, I would steal your wallet and help you look for it. That was for sure me. And, but people liked me, that's, I think, I was young. I was like, I got sober at right before my 24th birthday. So a lot of people kind of looked at me as this kid that partied really hard. The thing that they didn't realize was that, like, I knew that it was way more than just partying really hard. I had a absolute dependency on the drugs and alcohol because I was so afraid of looking at my life,
Where were the relationships in your life, like with your family? What did that look like?
Well, my mother always wanted to help me. She always wanted to help me. And I moved out of my parents' house very young. I moved out at 15. So I was on the street pretty much. And I never like slept in the street. I would always find a couch, find some loft, some crazy rich person's loft to live in. I always landed on my feet, but I was complete recluse. I was out of my mind. And my relationship with my father was non-existent when I moved out of my house. My father, my mother found like a bunch of drugs in my bedroom when I was 15, like a lot, like cases of ketamine, 350,
Jigs.
vials of ketamine.
Yeah.
And she was like, what the fuck is this, And then, my father and I were very, very physical with each other at the end. And so the cops were at my house a lot because he and I would end up getting into it. Neighbors would call the cops. Child services were involved. Child services showed up that last time when she found the drugs. Cops were there. Child services said they were going to put me in foster care. I laughed at that, My father was telling the cops to arrest me to put me away because of the drugs. He's like, he's a no good fucking drug dealer. Get him out of my house. Da, da, da. And so it was real kind of like my father and my relationship never was amended, and he died when I was 20. So I was really never able to, my father never saw me sober, I wish I could see, I wish I'd be able to have a one last conversation with him, to say, hey, dude, like I figured it out, I didn't figure it out. I'm figuring it out. Look at my life. Now, I don't know if he would have the ability to appreciate that. I don't know, because he was a really, really difficult person. But we had no relationship really leading up to his death. And then my mom and I, my mom always wanted to support me, but she kind of gave up on me a little bit towards the end there because I had no interest in changing. My sister and I had a really rough relationship. My sister kind of was like not really, she had had enough. And the only real relationships I thought I had were with my running buddies, the dudes that I ran with. And we were all up to no good, So when I got sober, I had to completely remove myself from those relationships and start working on building back the relationships that I have today with my family, and people that I really, consider friends. And there's not many, I got like a small crew, which I'm totally cool with. Back in those days, I had a bazillion friends, and it was all around drugs and partying,
Yeah. So you meet this girl's boyfriend who you knew was potentially in the program. The boyfriend was sober. He lays out this plan for you. You start following this plan. What does your first year start to look like for you? Did you originally go through a detox in the beginning? Physically, definitely mentally. What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I did not go to rehab. I did not go to detox. I really kind of grinned and bared it through. And I didn't know that I wasn't on barbiturates, really, but I was deeply addicted to alcohol. And I just didn't know that like trying to come off of alcohol cold turkey is super dangerous. I didn't know that. I didn't have anybody to really kind of like guide me that way. And Marcus didn't tell me I needed to go to a detox. So I kind of suffered through the DTs myself, and I was very shaky. Shit was coming out of all orifices of my body. I would like curl up into a little ball at night and pray for the pain to go away. But because I committed to what he had told me to do, it gave me purpose in a time where I was purposeless. And I think if there's one thing that I would just have to say for anybody listening that's struggling or even lost in sobriety, if you're not working out and eating healthy, you must begin doing that. I owe the success of my happiness, not my sobriety, my happiness to my commitment to fitness, nutrition, and spirituality, mindset, mindfulness. I just owe it to that. Because 12 steps and sponsors and the steps I owe to me being able to get sober and my willingness to, the program and to higher power. But the happiness part, I owe to finding purpose in wellness. And I think when, we're sort of cultivated in the current society and climate to look to external things to make us feel good. And I just know that's not true. It's just not. I've been successful since I've gotten sober. I've built businesses, I've sold businesses, I've financially have made some big wins. And it's not, those things are not tied to my happiness. The wins that I can create on a daily basis, the little ones. What did I eat? How long did I sleep? Did I work out? For me now, it's like a long list of things that I can do to make me feel better, right? Like that are all positive. Going into a sauna, going into a cold plunge, journaling, reading some good shit, listening to something that makes me feel good. These little wins that I've over the years stacked up. I created a business called Creatures of Habit because I really know that habit is everything. It'll make you or fucking break you. I've lived on both sides of that, right? Like my habits nearly killed me. And then I flipped the switch on the habits and I changed and traded all of the bad ones for good ones. And now I'm actually living a life. Now it's not perfect, but I'm living a life way beyond anything I thought was fucking possible. Like not even close. Not even close. And it has all to do with my commitment to doing what I know is the right thing to do as opposed to the wrong thing,
In the beginning, when I first got sober, so God is very much so a part of my sobriety story. Praying in the morning, at night, my sponsor did the same thing, get on your knees, humility, vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I learned that. In the beginning, I had to fake it. My connection with my higher power, with God in the beginning wasn't that strong. And it was almost a fabricated habit, but I continued to do it because I went through so much pain that anything else was better than what I was doing. So that habit eventually turned into me believing and then evolved to a connection and reliance and so on and so forth and a way of life eventually. What did your connection with God look like? Was it good when you first got sober? And how has it evolved over the last 20 years?
The truth is that I really can honestly say I don't know. I could honestly say that there's one thing I've done with conviction every single day since I was told to do it. I can't remember a day that I've missed prayer. I pray every single day on my hands and knees in the morning for about 5 minutes. I say the same prayer and I don't intellectualize it. I don't overanalyze it. I couldn't tell you who I'm praying to or what, but I can tell you that it is the one thing that I've done without fail. And I'm stoked in sobriety. And so there are days where I'm like totally fucking faking it and dialing it in on my knees. I get totally lost and sidetracked in my prayer. I got to bring it back and start from the beginning. And then there are days where not only do I pray in the morning, but I'm praying as I'm walking through my day, talking to God out loud in the car. God, hear me, guide me, be me, live through me, teach me, show me. Let me be an instrument of your will. Because I know that I left to my own devices, cannot do this shit alone. And I can't rely on another human being to force me or convince me or coerce me to want to abstain from alcohol and drugs. The connection that I have with help, also known as prayer for me, is, in my opinion, what's kept me going these years. You know, I like, that's all I can say about it. I don't close my eyes and have this vision of something, you know. I know that I'm not it. I know that you're not it. And I've been committed to searching out this higher experience in life through daily connection, and it works. I don't know what else to say about it. It fucking works. Like, when it stops working, maybe I'll say prayer's bullshit.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but it works for me.
Yeah, believing has always given me hope, and with hope, it's always given me that drive to continue on and push forward, and even just those dark times in sobriety, because you go through those in sobriety as well. You know, a common denominator amongst people with like that I've interviewed with double digit years of sobriety, a long time sober, they're giving back, they're helping others. What are some of the things that you've done for others, whether it be in the program or even just someone who needs help with nutrition, who isn't eating healthy, has no clue, needs to become educated? What did that look like, and what did it do for you?
I mean, I think being of service is what being a leader is, right? I selfishly love helping other people. It's just it naturally comes to me, and I do it as often and as much as I can. Very specifically, when I launched Creatures of Habit, I knew that I had to align this business with my passion for wellness, but really my passion for raising awareness for this recovery thing that's been a big part of my success and my happiness in life. And so I partnered with a foundation called the Release Recovery Foundation, and they raise money to help get addicts that are willing to go to treatment into treatment that don't have the means or the funds to go. And so for the last 2 years, we've raised a bunch of money, and I put on this ruck event, which is like basically walking with a weight vest. It's called We'll Wear the Weight, and we've raised a bunch of money, and we pay for people's treatments. We pay for their full journey. From the minute they tell me they're ready, I get a team of people over there to pick them up, either put them in a car, put them on a plane, send them to a treatment facility, pay for their treatment, pay for their aftercare. I stay in contact with them. That's one very, very like clear, tangible way that I, again, selfishly give back. And I post regularly on my social media accounts, hey, if you're struggling and you're ready for treatment and you can't afford to go, DM me and I will pay for everything. DM me. I'm not bullshitting. I will pay for fucking everything. You're ready to go? I got your back. DM me. And it's happened in multiple times where people all of a sudden, it's like fucking pin drops. And then 2 weeks later, I'm getting DMs from people. I saw what you did. I've obviously sponsored a bunch of guys, and you know, again, like they teach us in this world of recovery, like you can't fake a relationship with someone and try to, like, if I hadn't done the 12 steps, it would be really hard for me to walk somebody through the 12 steps. Similarly, I only know one way to get sober, and that involves fitness and nutrition and prayer. And so if somebody reaches out or I connect with somebody and they're like, hey, would you sponsor me? My first thing is to say, like, these are the things. And I lay out that fucking plan that Marcus laid out for me. That is how I know how to get sober. And if you're not willing to work out and eat well and pray, totally your prerogative. I do not judge, but I'm not the guy because I can only tell you the way I did it and it works. You know, it fucking works. I'm sober. I'm 44. I'm sober 20 years. I'm sober more than, I'm sober almost half my life. And I spent 11 years out there. So I got so lucky, spared, But yeah, I think, being a business owner for me is almost, especially when I was in the restaurant business at one point. I mean, at one point, it sounds kind of crazy to say, but I had over 700 employees and everybody knew me as the sober guy, the sober owner. They would come to me on the side and I never passed judgment. I never said, oh man, you're drinking and using drugs. You're fired. I said, let me help you. Let me tell you where to go. I can't sponsor you, but I could point you in the direction of some great sponsors. I get text messages from former employees, 7 years today. I'm like, fuck.
That's
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah. The amount of people that I've really sort of helped walk the path into sobriety over the years, especially in the restaurant world where, it runs rampant. A lot of people have come to me and knocked on my door and said, hey, can you, I don't know what to do, So yeah, it's a big part of my life.
Really quick to backtrack, for the person who's listening right now or watching and they are willing and ready to go away, where can they go
DM
to
me.
apply?
At Michael Chernow, DM me right now.
Okay. CHERNOW.
Yep. DM me.
Okay.
And it's not for the rich folk, right? If you can afford to go to treatment,
right,
and you want to go, you should pay the money and go.
Yep.
It's for the people that simply don't have the means to go. And if you want to get sober and you're ready to pull the trigger, you feel like you have hit the bottom and you are ready to change your life, absolutely DM me at Michael Chernow and I will sort you out.
It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. And thank you for your service, man. I appreciate you doing that. It's a lot of unfortunate circumstances and situations out there where people, have the willingness. And it's crazy because that willingness can come and then it can go.
Quick.
Very quick. That little window. And that can make all the difference.
Like I said, the stars really aligned for me in that day. I made the call. She said, don't move. Marcus showed up. He was a cool dude that I wanted to impress, that I wanted to, like it was like all worked out, right? Because if she didn't send Marcus, chances are that little fucking moment would have been gone.
It's crazy how that works out sometimes. Where are you? What is life like now for you? You have a family. You have multiple businesses.
Mm.
Talk a little bit about where you're at today. Obviously, you have 20 years. You just had 20 years in August of sobriety. These are gifts of the program. And you wouldn't have any of this, I think it's safe to say, without being sober.
None of it. Not a single speck of it. The only thing that I can say is the same in my life from before I got sober are some bad tattoos. That's it. Everything is different.
Which one?
A lot. I'm actually, the truth is that I'm covered in tattoos. I've got a lot of them in sobriety, but there are some that are, just don't have a story like the rest of them do. What is life like today? Well, I'll start off by saying I love myself. That's facts. I can honestly say I love myself. I have no fucking shame around it. I don't feel weird saying it. It is as true as can be. And so that's number one. I put myself as the priority in my life before my wife and before my kids, because I know that anything that I put in front is going to suffer. When I make myself the priority, I show up as the best version of myself. And that doesn't mean that I sacrifice time spent with my wife and kids or my business. That means that I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to spend 2 hours before everybody else gets up to just smash self-indulgence and self-care, self-work, you know? So yeah, so my life today is I'm a father and a husband. It's the two greatest accomplishments I've ever had and will ever have in my life. I know that to be true. It doesn't matter how much money I make, how much money I've made, how many businesses I've launched, what kind of car I drive, what kind of house we live in. The greatest accomplishment in my life is love of self, great father, and great husband. I could say those things with confidence, actually, and it's not in an egotistical way. I say it because my wife tells me all the time. My kids tell me all the time. They love you. They love their dad. My wife loves me. And, you know, it's, I owe all of that to sobriety, all of it. Everything else can crash and burn. Everything else could fail. Truth. It can, right? That's life. But what it all boils down to, in my opinion, is love. Love for thyself and love for others. And not only like my love for them, but their love for me back and my ability to receive it. Right? Like I think all the decisions we make in life in general, be it good or bad, are in the name of love. A lot of the decisions that I made before I got sober were me trying to love myself and not being able to. So I would just try to find ways to fake it, try to find ways to control how I felt about myself through drugs and alcohol. It was the easiest way to not hate myself, by using a substance that put a false sort of like painted a false picture of my life. And so, you know, I I live a pretty simple life, man. I wake up super early in the morning. I stack wins all morning long as my wife and kids are still sleeping. At 7 o'clock in the morning, typically I walk back out into the house and my wife and kids are up. We have breakfast. I hang with them. I take my kids to school. I go to work. I train some point throughout the day. I come home. We have dinner every single night at 6 o'clock. We like sit around the dinner table every single night and we talk about our day. My wife and I will switch back and forth putting the kids to bed. After the kids go down, I hang out with my wife for an hour and a half and we cuddle and then we go to bed. And like, I'm so happy with that life. I'm so happy with that life, man. Like, I wouldn't want it any other way. I've got goals, of course. I'm still young. I've got like dreams and goals of achieving much bigger and you know, grander things in business. But the family stuff, the important stuff has been secured through my commitment to staying sober. It just has. The second I choose to pick up a drug or a drink, it's all gone. Because I know, 20 years sober, I know that I am a fucking full-fledged drug addict and an alcoholic. I know it. I know it because of how I am with everything else in my life. If I find something I like, I'm fucking all in. Period. The second I pick up a drink, it's over. The second I think about using drugs, I'm planning my relapse. It's over. I'm not going to do, it's my biggest fear. It's my biggest fear. So I do a lot of things to keep me from thinking that way. You know, a day at a time, I'm so grateful for my sobriety. You're looking at a guy who 20 years plus in, I am so fucking grateful for my sobriety. I got nothing without it, you know.
So when you were younger, you had a rough relationship with your father. Today, you are a father of 2 boys. And, you know, from what we were talking about prior to the interview here, and even just what you said, you show up. You show up for your kids. Sounds like you have a loving relationship with your kids and your family as a whole. You changed the pattern in your family. You changed the, you know, generational, whatever you want to call it, the relationship
Broke
that
the
you did.
chain.
Yeah, there you go. You broke the chain. Exactly. Why do you think that is?
You know, it's funny. I remember hearing something. Maybe it was like a clip on social media, or I was listening to a podcast where Oprah was a guest, and she said there are 2 kinds of people that experience trauma. There are the ones that follow suit, and then there are the ones that go in the opposite direction. I am the latter. Full transparency, was terrified before we had our kids because I'd never been a father. I knew that I was a caring, loving person because of how great my relationship was with my wife, but I'd never been a father. And I was terrified that, like, oh my gosh, like, these kids, I'm going to come into this world, and then all of a sudden, like, what if I don't have the patience for them? What if I don't love them? What if I treat them the way my father treated me? What if that happens? My father wasn't an alcoholic. He didn't drink. I never saw him drink. He never did drugs, ever. What if this monster is hiding in me? I don't know. Obviously, it didn't happen that way. I look at my kids today, my 2 sons, and I could never imagine ever, speaking to my kids, even anywhere close to the way my father treated me. No, like, I can't even fathom how he thought that was okay. Never would I ever. I am, like, so madly in love with these 2 dudes, you know? Like, now, could I be more present at times? Absolutely. Is it hard for me to turn off my entrepreneurial, hard-charging mind at times when I get home for dinner? For sure. Other times where I've been checked by my sons because I'm on the phone and I should be paying more attention to them, 100%. I'm definitely not a perfect dad, but I am committed to being the greatest father I can be. And my relationship with them, if you were to ask them, I would argue to say that they would say I'm the best dad ever, you know, because there's nothing but love. I shower them with love. And they know, like, I am not afraid to discipline them when it's needed. Mm-hmm. But we have created, like, they have so much structure in their life. And my wife is a very, very structured person. And I think that's what kind of, like, you know, makes us such a great pair, because I am all about structure. I needed structure. Like, I needed every minute of every day of my life when I first got sober filled with some sort of a project or some sort of a task to do in order to stay on the beam. And my wife is very, very structured in that way too. She, like, when I said my wife is the best mom, it's like, you know, some people kind of roll their eyes at us as a family because of how we are with our kids. Not like militant, but our kids go to bed at the same time every single night. They just do. We don't fluctuate. Like, if we're out at a party, we go home early because we want that structure has been so beneficial for those dudes. Even though there are times where they fight and scream about it, they are the most even-keeled kids, the calmest kids. the most well-behaved kids. And I believe it has to do with structure. I think, there's a guy named Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL, really, really powerful guy in the world of thought leadership, and a guy that I have like learned to love. And he has a quote that I actually have tattooed on my hand because of how like impactful it's been in my life. But his sort of like claim to fame is discipline equals freedom. And discipline is, some people kind of like recoil at the word discipline because maybe discipline in their life as a kid was scary, like it was for me. Discipline was scary for me. My father would discipline me physically, discipline me verbally. And so I ran away from discipline. I hated authority, still struggle with it a little bit. But when I got sober, I understood that discipline and structure was what I needed to feel freedom. If I know what I got to do, it takes the stress out of decision making. I fucking know what I got to do. My kids, they know what they got to do at night. We have dinner at 6. They bring their plates and their shit over to the kitchen sink. We play games from 6:30 to 7:15, 7:20. And then we walk upstairs at 7:30 and brush their teeth, read them a couple of books. I sing them a song. I have these values that we since they're born, we've created this thing called the 13 things, where my boys will recite this thing back to me. And it's not like in some weird way. It's just like my way of trying to instill value in them from a very young age. So there's a lot of structure in not a militant way in our life. And believe it or not, the kids love it. Like freedom is really on the other side of discipline, in my opinion. So I kind of bring that into the family.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Michael, where can everyone find you? Your socials and your podcasts.
Yeah, I'm at Michael Chernow everywhere. Podcast is the Creatures of Habit podcast. Creatures is with a K. I've got a cool business, called Creatures of Habit, where I've created this high protein overnight oatmeal as a direct result of Marcus telling me to eat oatmeal every single morning. And so after eating oatmeal every single morning for 16 years, and I decided to get out of the restaurant business, I launched this brand called Creatures of Habit, and I took the oatmeal concoction that I'd been making every morning and made it into a business. And so now I've been able to really give people a nutritional win and a habit to start their day with every day, but also tell my story. And it's like this dream business that I've been, lucky enough to create. And so, yeah, Creatures of Habit with a K is the name of the business. We sell this awesome oatmeal and this sleep support hot chocolate. Yeah, that's where you can find me. Creatures of Habit podcast.
The oatmeal, you sell it in boxes?
Yeah, so it's a box comes with 7 servings, so it's 7 meals in a box. It's overnight, so you just basically pour a pouch into a jar, add some almond milk or oat milk or regular milk, whatever you want to it. Stir it up for about 30 seconds, cover it, throw it in the fridge, pull it out in the morning, and it's ready to go. It's got 30 grams of protein in it. It's got omega-3 fatty acids. It's got probiotic digestive enzymes, vitamin D3. It's really, really good shit and super clean. And it really is like, it's what I've been fueling my body with for many, many years because Marcus gave me that nutritional win in my earliest day of sobriety, my first day of sobriety, And so when I was thinking about what my next business should be after the pandemic hit and I was not able to be in the restaurant business anymore, well, I still own the restaurants or percentage of the restaurants, but we all thought that the restaurant industry was done when the pandemic hit. So I knew, and I had just sold a bunch of equity at my last concept. And I just knew that it was time for me to pivot out of the restaurant business and create a business that would allow me to really be me and tell my story. I can't really tell recovery story as a restaurateur in New York City. People aren't trying to hear that. So I knew that I wanted to create something that would allow me to sit across from you and tell this story and have my business aligned with that. So that's what it is.
How much is each box?
So a meal is $4.50. So about half the price of a Starbucks Frappuccino. And you're getting, it's a full satiating meal. In it is like, it's got 30 grams of plant-based protein, super easy to digest, gluten and glyphosate-free oats. It's got chia seeds, flax seeds, and pumpkin seeds for omega-3 fatty acids. We add pink Himalayan salt for electrolytes. We add a really great probiotic and digestive enzymes for gut health, vitamin D3 for just vitamin D3, you know, where a lot of people are deficient in D3. So I thought, why don't I just add it to the mix? And yeah, and it's super easy to make. I mean, the amount of time you save with this product, and it's fucking delicious. It tastes like dessert for breakfast, but it's really healthy. There's no sugar in it. It's only sweetened with monk fruit. So it's a great product. And, you know, I'm able to tell my story.
What would it do for someone like me who I am the king of just massive unhealthy breakfasts and I get tired? My digestive system is in overdrive very early in the morning.
It would change your life. It would change your life.
Okay.
Why? Because especially for people that are looking to eat healthier, it's always a dilemma in the morning. What do I eat? I don't want to start cooking eggs, making this thing. I don't have 15 different ingredients to make a smoothie. I don't want to clean up after the smoothie.
You're on point, dude.
So it's like I want to eat healthy and I want to kick off my day. And, you know, I kind of say great decisions make great decisions. Yeah. If you start right, the chances of you making better decisions throughout the rest of the day are just far greater. It's not guaranteed.
100%.
But by making it the night before, it takes 30 seconds to make before you go to bed. There's no thought process involved. There's no, like, what should I eat? There's no stress around it. You literally open up the fridge, pull it out, open it up, splash a little almond milk in there, stir it, and eat it. And it's getting you this full, incredibly healthy 30 gram of protein meal that's going to fill you up from breakfast to lunch. And again, like, I'm a trained chef. I spent over a year working on the formula so that the balance of flavor is super good. And, you know, you can also make a smoothie with it if you want. Super easy. Just throw a little ice and some almond milk into a blender, pour the pouch in, throw a half a banana, and then you have an easy smoothie. But really, it's best, in my opinion, it tastes best overnight. It's super satiating. I always feel like smoothies, like after I have a smoothie, I'm like, I don't feel like a smoothie fills me up. This bowl of oatmeal that's kind of thick and, you know, rich. I always add frozen blueberries and cacao nibs to it.
Yeah, of course.
So the time saving, the health benefit, the ability to get you going with a nutritional win in the morning. And I think a lot of people that honestly, I really like, I haven't even begun sort of introducing it to the recovery world yet because I feel a little weird about that, you know? But eventually I will, because I know how important it was for me to get that nutritional win in the morning. Like when Marcus was telling me to eat healthy and move my body, like I just didn't put 1 and 2 together. It wasn't because he was trying to get me in great shape, although he was. It was because he wanted me to learn that I can control these little wins, right? Like after eating a healthy meal, you just feel good. You feel good like you've accomplished something. It sends a very similar signal to the brain, a hit of dopamine that goes off, and it's just like you've won, ding, 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 you've won. And so for me, like if I told you what my morning routine is, you'd probably roll your eyes. But I'm such a severe like addict that I have stacked a ton of wins in the morning so that by 7 a.m., it doesn't matter what is happening. Like this morning, I woke up at 5:15. I sat in front of the red light. I meditated in front of the red light. I did all of my prayers and my push-ups and my stretching. I walked into the sauna, sat in the sauna and did some breath work. I walked across from the sauna. I sat in my cold plunge. I did all this shit. I don't think that that's necessary for everybody. I'm just saying that for me, once I got a hit of like, holy shit, I could do all these positive things and get a similar effect that I would get from using drugs and alcohol,
Yes.
just in a positive way,
Yep.
I'm all in, man. I'm 44 years old and I've like, if you know, I feel like I'm 25.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got my blood work back and I'm deep on the blood work. Like I'm very focused on blood work because I really like health is a big part of my life. My biological age came back at 26 years old.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's the oatmeal. It's the oatmeal. Everyone, if you want to feel young again, if you want to, you want those tests coming back young again, oatmeal.
Just start your day right.
Creatures of habit.
Start your fucking day right.
Yeah.
Start your day right. You know, you get a choice. You get a choice.
I work out hard. Eating is my kryptonite. Like I have a tough time but you're right. When I make that first right decision, right when I wake up in the morning, in terms of what I'm, my intake, then salad for lunch, and then I'll do like a grilled chicken and broccoli or something for dinner. And you stack enough days up like that, obviously you're increasing the chances by starting off with that oatmeal.
Yeah, and a lot of people like this intermittent fasting thing. By the way, like if you don't eat until noon, or 1 or 11, when it comes time to eat, you are really fucking hungry. A lot of people that intermittent fast tend to overeat when they get to that eating window. I'm like, look, wake up, move your body a little bit, eat within the first 90 minutes of being awake, because that is ultimately going to provide you energy. If you are an advanced athlete or wellness person and you've done all these things and you want to try intermittent fasting, go for it. But, like starting your day with a healthy meal is so fucking powerful on so many different levels, because what I've learned is, if you think back primally, wins for human beings before money was a thing was, what are you eating and how much work did you physically do to provide and protect for your family? Those were the wins. That was it. Period. Food, water, and shelter. Those are the wins, right? So for hundreds of thousands of years, human beings were wired to consider that the win. Now, external things like money and cars and fucking houses and whatever are the wins. And because typically food, shelter, and water are given. If you really want to feel the win of life and you really want to walk through life, and this is my philosophy, you really want to walk through life with optimism and positivity and happiness, go back to that being your primal focus. Eat well, move your body, fucking make sure you're hydrating, and you're just going to feel better. And then everything else is way more possible.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for taking the drive down here. And thank you for your sobriety, because you paved the way for people that came in after you like myself. So
thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks.